Hello! Welcome to Anime Mystics. I'm Roman, and tonight I am watching High Score Girl, Episode 2. So I apologize if this is a little late. Um, as I said in my Chio-chan episode reaction, I was basically thinking about my career change, um, but ultimately decided to stay with the place I'm working at now. But I had a lot to think about, so my mind wouldn't have been focused on the reaction, it would have been more focused on that. So I decided to just wait until everything was figured out and just catch up. Which shouldn't be too hard because I really don't have much in the first part of the week, Mondays and Tuesdays. Because right now I'm waiting until I'm done with Psychic Detective Yakumo before I start Kaiji, which is going to be on Tuesday. But, yeah. Anyway, so the last episode, we met our two characters whose, well, names I already forgot. Let me look this up. Here we go. So we met our two main characters, Haruo Yaguchi and Akira Ono. Haruo is a, well, just, I don't know, are they in high school? Because they look like they're in elementary school, or at least middle school. Or she just. Either way, it starts off with him at an arcade, and he's playing Street Fighter 2. I guess he had a streak going on against some other players. The guys behind him were getting mad because they wanted him to lose so they could take the spot. I don't know why they just didn't go around and play him and try to beat him, but probably because they knew they wouldn't be able to. But then it's when we see Ono, who takes the other box, like the other cabinet in the front, to challenge him to a match, and uses I think his favorite character to use was Guile. Hers was Zangief. And beat him. I guess I can't remember exactly. I do remember him being kind of hard to use back in the Super Nintendo days. But he was pretty surprised that she used Zangief. And also that she was able to do his like spinning pile driver attack. She ended up with a much higher win streak than he did, and he tried multiple times to beat her and couldn't do it, at least until the last time he played her, where he decided to kind of cheat. He was playing cheaply, like he was, I think they called it turtling. He was kind of crouched down and kind of hitting the leg, and it sets Guile up for a couple of attacks. The spin kick and the sonic boom. So if she tries to do something against him, like jump into the air, he could do the spin kick, and if he tried something else, the sonic boom. Give me 1 second. Okay. So he does turtling, and it's not going over very well with the rest of the people in the arcade. They know it's a cheap move and a cheap way of winning. It requires no actual skill, and it works really well against Zangief. So he wins the first round. Second round, he loses. And the final round, I forget what they called it, but he used another cheap method in order to beat her. He started throwing her. Like he was doing a cheap throw where he was like kind of crouching, but then would grab and toss her. And he ended up winning that way. He didn't really care. All he wanted to do was win, so he didn't care what the other people thought of him about what he was doing. So once he won, Ono came over and punched him in the face. Then the next part. Oh god, what happened in the next part? I know they were still playing a game. I think they showed them playing like an arcade box outside of a store. But the buttons are all messed up. He didn't know this at first. Ono was playing and she ended up beating the game with Dalsim. And then he's like, alright, fine, if she could do it, I could do it. And he goes over to the arcade box and there's no... Like, the buttons are gone. That, and they have, like, no sensitivity. Like, you can't really press them and get, like, attacks going. So he ends up losing. And he's like, how did she do this? It's also good to point out that he doesn't seem to think she should be playing video games. Because she doesn't look like the kind of person that would. She's rich, quiet, popular, like the complete opposite of what a gamer, I guess, would normally be. I guess, especially back in the day. Like, this takes place in 91. But I mean, just about anybody can play video games. It doesn't matter what kind of life you have. But, you know, back then, that's basically the mindset. Then they were playing... Or actually, he was playing Street Fighter in the arcade, and she was playing some other game. One of those, like, table games. Still a video game, but it's like you have to look down and the buttons are on the table and you play it that way. So he was playing Street Fighter, and this guy and his girlfriend show up and start playing. And he ends up letting the guy win. They were really annoying, and he just was like, whatever, I'll just let him win. After that, she got on and beat him, and he got really angry. Went over to the other side, and the girlfriend started yelling at her, and he started yelling at her. So Haruo decides to go over there and kind of help her out, you know. So he's like, you know, can we just move on from this? You know, it's not really that big of a deal. And then they start beating him up. So she jumps in and she beats like both of them up, and they get kicked out. And he buys her like a candy. Well, he ended up buying 2 candies, but I was going to give her one, but she wanted both. So he's like, you know what? You did help me out at the arcade, so here, you can have them both. That actually came at this next part. It was raining, and they ran into this like candy store to kind of shelter themselves from the rain. Had a couple of arcade games in there. Final Fight, Ghosts and Goblins, and like a couple others. But I've noticed in this series that they mostly focus on the Capcom games. So I'm expecting that for the rest of the series. Either that or each episode is going to focus on a specific Oh god, what is it? Like production company, gaming company. So maybe last week was Capcom. This week will be I don't know, Konami or something. I don't know. Maybe it's all just Capcom. But so she ends up. They end up getting both going into this place, and the old lady that runs it is basically like, "Look, if you don't buy nothing, then you got to leave. I don't care if it's raining." And he's like, "Okay, well, I'll just play the game over here." And he's looking at them like, I don't know, well, which one should I do? And he's thinking, he's like, I could play Fatal Fury. I only got enough for like, no, not Fatal Fury, Final Fight. I've only got enough for like 1 or 2 tries. If I lose really quickly, then I'm going to have to leave and get out into the rain. And then she walks up and starts playing Final Fight as Hagar. Also surprising to him. And he sees that she's doing badly. Like, she loses her first 2 lives pretty quickly. And so the old lady is like watching him like a hawk. And he's like, all right, you know what? I'll jump in and I'll help you out. So he puts in his coin and he's trying to help her out. And she is just beating him up. Like, she's stepping on his feet. She's punching him. For some reason, she doesn't talk. So it's not like he can just understand what she's trying to do. It's not until he starts noticing things that she's doing in the game where he's like, oh, okay, I see what she's doing. Basically, she lost her first couple of lives on purpose so that she had some kind of motivation to not lose. 2, I guess there's this thing in Final Fight called alchemy, where if you do a certain thing when you destroy something in the game, instead of getting an item, you'll get like instead of getting like a health item or something like that, you'll get like a high point item, like an item that gives you a ton of points. Because she's going for the high score. And for those who don't know, in Final Fight, you can hurt your partner, and he kept accidentally hitting her, so that would make her angry, and she'd punch him. So they both end up going through the end of the game. She gets the high score, and then when they're leaving is when he buys the candy. And he walks over to her, he calls her name, says, I'm sorry that I was kind of holding you back during the game. I didn't know you were trying to get the high score, so here, have this candy. And then she looks at the other one, and he's like, do you want both? And she says, mm-hmm. And he's like, all right, well, because you helped me out at the other arcade as well, then here, you can have the both of them. And then he gets run over by their car. Her, I guess, butler or chauffeur runs him over. She gets in, and then they drive off. Also got to mention that basically the whole thing is CG. It seems like it's all CG anyway. Okay. So yeah, it looks like it's all CG. I like the fact that they have, I guess, Capcom's permission to use the titles and show images to the game, like gameplay and all that. It's really funny. I just wish I knew what they were. Like, are they elementary school kids, middle school kids, high school? I mean, they look like they're either elementary or middle, but I have no idea. Let me see this. Okay, so it's over. Ran for 9 years. Yeah, this does not say. Yep, nothing. But anyway, let's get into this episode. I've gone on for like 15 minutes, but that's also because I kind of stopped and did a couple things on my phone. So that'll most likely get cut out. Maybe. We'll see. But yeah, let's get into this. So the video is going to be located over here, and the link to the reaction is going to be in the description down below. And we're going to start this episode in 3, 2, 1.